The oracles of the UCI, 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have favorite love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua HaMashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 to chapter 5, verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness, and wrath, and anger, and clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling Savior. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as become saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has going up to us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. One of the things that you read in those oracles that I think sometimes we read so much that we kind of go past some of those things. It says, behold, I am sending an angel to lead you in the way. There is some responsibility involved in being in a setting that Yahweh is blessed and sanctified. I have sent an angel to lead you in the way, but do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgression. So you have Yahweh ordaining a situation, but once that angel gets there, you have a level of responsibility on how you're going to deal within that situation, because the angel is not going to take any excuses. See, Yahweh is merciful, the angel's not. And that's the thing that we don't understand about levels of authority and levels of power and levels of responsibility. Those things are not all the same. Every angel does not have the same power, and every angel will not have the same responsibility. Same with individuals. So here it is, you have Yahweh who is over all, and then he places an angel in the presence to do a job. Now, what we think is somehow we can get a relationship with Yahweh that then bypasses the responsibility of the angel in charge. Not going to happen. Yahweh deals in covenants. The angel is in covenant with Yahweh to do a job. He is not going to let anyone, anything any entity, nothing, stop him from completing the task that Yahweh has given him. And this is a warning that was given unto us. Beware of him. Do not provoke him. He will not pardon your transgression. See, by the time I even look up, he's going to be done already dealt with you. Because he had that authority when he was given the job. He doesn't have to go back and ask Yahweh, can I do such and such? He doesn't have to have a forum. He doesn't have to have a meeting. He doesn't have to have anything. There's no vote. There's no nothing. When he was given the job, this is how jobs go. When a job is given, authority goes along with the job. He doesn't have to ask anybody when it's time for him to do something. And Yahweh is warning his people who are called after his name not to provoke the angel. So then we have to deal with levels of responsibility and levels of power, and understand that one can never bypass the other. All of those things, if working the correct way, are supposed to work hand in hand for the same purpose in which it was created for. So then when we are given this this holy law, then all of these things work together to lead the children of Israel into the place of salvation. Now, every year we go through a process of removing the leaven from our houses in preparation for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Feast of Unleavened Bread is a 7-day feast in which the children of Israel are forbidden to eat any foods containing leaven. Leaven is a rising agent that causes bread to rise. This leaven must be removed from our homes before the feast begins. The process of finding and removing this leaven from our houses is a tedious task. In the process of rooting out the leaven of our houses, our house enters a state of what appears to be disarray. In actuality, the house is about to be the cleanest and most righteous it's going to be. If you begin to be dismayed at the condition of the house when the leaven is being rooted out, you may lose faith in the process and quit the task too early. If you do this, the leaven, which represents sin, remains in your dwelling. Let's begin today's sermon in Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, and we're going to start that at verse 15. And today's sermon is entitled, Getting to the Leaven. Getting to the Leaven. See, we understand the physical part of rooting out some things. Do we understand the spiritual part of rooting out some things? It is just as a tedious task as the natural part. But the natural part is real easy. We can look at how many shelves we got. We got 4 shelves. We got 3 cabinets. We know how many layers are there. When you're dealing with a spiritual situation, you don't know how many layers are there. You don't find out how many layers are there until you start the process. When you begin the process, you see, oh, there's another level. And then you go deeper in and you say, oh, there's 2 more levels that I see after that. Then you keep going and then you find out how many levels there are. So you don't get to say beforehand, this process should take 20 minutes. So you can look at your cabinets. And if you've done this before, you know how many things are in your cabinet. Then you can guess, all right, this may take me 2 weeks. But when you're dealing with spiritual things that are about real life, it's going to keep changing. It's going to keep opening up as you find out more and more about the situation. And now you got to keep going deeper and deeper into getting to that spiritual level. But Yahweh puts our mind in a place where we're supposed to understand that by dealing with these physical parts of removing the leaven. But sometimes we get stuck right there at that physical part of removing the leaven. Exodus chapter 12, and let's start that at verse 15.
7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel.
And understand what leaven does. Leaven causes something to rise or be puffed up. If something is going to submit to Yahweh, then it is going to bow down or be flat. So then we have to consider our attitudes and things that we present. Are we puffed up? And you can tell when somebody, what they tell you when somebody, they puff up their chest at you, right? What you puffed up for? The opposite of submission. The opposite of accepting Yahweh's direction. So if something is puffed up, it is the opposite of unleavened. So you got unleavened and leavened. If it's leavened, it is puffed up. All you have to do is listen, and you will hear what's puffed up. Go ahead.
And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation, and in the 7th day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread, until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eats that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land.
And you have to ask yourself, do we believe the things that we read? Do we believe that Yahweh is serious about the law that he has given unto Israel? See, I remember people telling me about some situations where they went to help some people get ready for unleavened bread. And they had, things that they wanted to keep. As they tried to take those things out, they doubled back, went back and put that stuff back in the freezer. All we need to do is put some butter on that. That's good toast. And eventually the cutoff is what it is. Do you believe Yahweh when he and it caused issues? Because then when one brother decides that he's gonna try to discipline his house, then the people of his house say you wasn't saying all that when you was looking at that toast in there. Well, that wasn't my house. Don't matter, you ain't saying nothing when you was in there. See, it's not one thing, go to another thing, and go from one house and go to another house. See, there are levels of responsibility, and when people see that you are at a certain level of, or where they perceive that you are at a certain level. And then we look at all of these things, okay, we're supposed to be removing something. And then they look, and your kitchen is still in there. Then now they're going home with a question in their mind. But that question don't come out till later. But that question is sitting there. That question causes doubt in Yahweh. Because surely this is an individual who knows what the word says. There's a level of power associated with this individual. Why the hell is that toast still in there? And that was a decision. It wasn't a situation that was missed. It was a decision that was made. But we don't consider when other people saw that caused them problems in their house. Go ahead.
Verse 20. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations shall you eat unleavened bread. Then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door, I will not suffer the destroyer to come in onto your houses to smite you.
Right. The destroyer doesn't pass over your house because you claim that you're Israel. The destroyer doesn't pass over your house because he saw a kufi and some fringes. That is not why the destroyer passed over your house. The destroyer passed over your house because it saw the sign of obedience. Pay attention. The destroyer didn't say, well, I like this person. This person is nice. They speak all the time. This person right here is mean when it. Obedience. Who followed the instruction that was given? See, the destroyer was created to do a job. Okay? He's not negotiating with people. He's not talking to people. He's not having a conversation as he floats through. He's looking for one thing. The sign of obedience. That's it. He's not looking for anything else. Your reasons don't matter. Any of how you think, feel, and believe, none of that comes into play. He's looking for the sign of obedience. Either you have it or you don't. Go ahead.
So you think if there's just blood over the lintel, he's spiritual?
What did it say? What did it say? Did it work for Saul? When he did part of it, I have followed the law of the commandment of my Elohim. No, you didn't. You either followed all of it or you didn't follow any of it. So if you're going to follow half of it, go ahead and jump in the lake of fire now. Why are you wasting your time? There's still much fun to be had out there in Babylon. Don't let us slow you down. We're slowing you down. Go out in Babylon and have you a good time. Because if you're going to be lake of fire bound, why are you here doing this? Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 24. And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. And it shall come to pass, when you be come to the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, what mean you by this service? That you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed their head and worshipped.
Now, so then this is telling you that there are conversations that are supposed to be between you and your children so that you can pass on thought processes. See? So then it matters what kind of stories your children hear. When it says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children, that inheritance is not just money. Because if you leave children money without any understanding, they're going to blow it anyway. That's going to be gone in a week and a half. A real inheritance is an understanding about who they are and how they're supposed to direct their life. So that means every bit of information that enters their mind matters. So imagine as you're supposed to be talking to your kids about this, and then Lucifer's talking to your kids about something else. So then as it's time to leave an inheritance for your kids as to what they are supposed to do when you are gone, none of us going to live forever. Naturally, unless Yahshua comes, then we get to go with him. But you have a situation where the next generation is supposed to go forward. What are they going to go forward with? What is going to be their mentality? How are they going to operate their lives? So you find situations, even when they were looking for wives for these men, he said, go and find a wife for my son among his mother's children. Because it grieved me if he picked one of these women over here among the sons of Canaan, the daughters of them. Do not pick one of these people for my son to marry. But because we want to have a good time, those are exactly the ones we go after. We go after the daughters of Canaan. That way we can make the daughters of Canaan a side chick. But Yahweh don't deal with side chicks. But see, that's what gives us the belief that it's okay. Because see, it's a daughter of Canaan. I can deal with the Canaanite daughter as a side chick. And then later on, I get me an Israelite one. So I can have me two faces. I can have my face that I show when I present myself to Yahweh, and then there's that other face. Yahweh gonna put both of them in the fire. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel went away, and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh, as you have said.
One thing we have to understand, that we get to the holy days of Yahweh our Elohim, and what we want is our own rendition of what that is supposed to be. Yahweh is drawing out these situations, and they are in the midst of turmoil. What we just want to do is just sit back and enjoy ourselves, and you know, we want a northeasterly breeze about 5 miles an hour. We want it to be not cool, not blazing hot, but a little in the middle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we want the perfect conditions, yet that's not what these people went through. Go ahead.
You know, it's just like you're saying, the first Passover was chaos and death, but we want our Passover to be calm and cool. Every year we see going into the holy days, there's chaos and death around us. Maybe not physical death.
Right. But you got to root out the leaven, right? Okay. Leaven represents sin. How do you root out leaven without making disarray? If I'm going to go and clean that cabinet, I got to pull everything out of that cabinet and set it on that counter. Now my whole house look like it's in disarray. It's not. Because I'm going to take bit by bit, and I'm going to read. Oh, yeah, that got leaven in it. Sit that on the side. We're going to either eat that by a certain date, or it's got to get thrown out. Now that got to go in the box, okay? This other stuff, go back in the cabinet. It has been approved to go back in its place. Do we understand that that's what Yahweh does with us every year? And he pick you up, turn you around, and read the back of you. And if he find any leaven, he sit it in this box. Use that before unleavened bread come up.
You know, just the last thing, you know, we want this peace going into the holy days. Strive to make it in the millennium kingdom if you want peace.
You got it.
Verse 32. Also take your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, beside children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victuals.
Okay, so there's something that Yahweh wants, right? This is unleavened bread. But the way he makes them deal with it is they are thrust out before they have time to do it. He's forcing them to have unleavened bread, whether they understand that yet or not. See, Yahweh pushes situations that he'll explain later. Go ahead.
Now the journeying of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass, that all the host of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt.
All right, that's go 42.
It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations.
Right, and we know that that 430 was split in between part of the time in Canaan as well. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16, and let's read verses 1 through 8.
Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto Yahweh your El. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your El brought you forth out of Egypt by night.
So, the same things, these things are connected in time, so they have to be done along the same time every year. Observe the month of Abib, which means green ear, and keep the Passover unto Yahweh your Elohim. Go ahead.
You shall therefore sacrifice the Passover unto Yahweh your El of the flock and the herd in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name there.
Right. So when it comes down to the holy days, the things that Yahweh has set, then those things are supposed to be set at a certain place where Yahweh has placed his spirit. Now, it's one thing if you cannot get to that place. Is another thing for us to just make this normal. And this is what we do. When we decide we're just going to keep this whatever we want to keep it. Now you have made a special situation that Yahweh has placed. You have now made it regular. The same thing that Miriam did when she said, we're all holy. So now Moshe is not an individual who sticks out. He's not an individual who Yahweh is called to do a job. He is just like everybody else. And Yahweh dealt with it. That's what we do when we just normalize something. It's not really that special. Go ahead.
You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction, for you came forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life.
Right, you came out of the land of Egypt in haste. So understand that this is a drawn out situation before they come out of Egypt. It may be actually believed that they didn't even know that they were going to be released. They keep attempting situations, and the situations keep getting rougher. So, man, you're supposed to be helping this situation, and every time you go, it gets rougher on us. You need to stop talking to him. So that situation is dragging out, but then when it happens, Yahweh makes it happen like that. So it drags, and now hurry up and go. Go ahead.
And there shall be no leavened bread seen with you in all your coasts 7 days. Neither shall there anything of the flesh, which you sacrifice the first day at even, remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates, which Yahweh your El gives you. But at the place which Yahweh your El shall choose to place his name in, there you shall sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that you came forth out of Egypt.
At the going down of the sun, we know that this is when a day officially changes, and if we are sanctifying ourselves the right way, then we are spiritually clean, the cleanest at sundown, because that is the beginning of that day. We have not done anything wrong yet. Go ahead.
And you shall roast and eat it in the place which Yahweh your El shall choose. And you shall turn in the morning and go unto your tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to Yahweh your El. You shall do no work therein.
Now, so then we find that there is then a process whereby you first remove all of the leaven. Because if those things are still present, what you have is a tendency and a possibility to go and get that leaven during the time that you are supposed to be eating unleavened. So the first process is to remove it. It should not be anywhere where you can get to it. This is why going to places and going to outside things can get us into trouble during a time that we're supposed to be operating a certain way. Because then once you go amongst the Babylonian system, you go amongst other people, they got all that stuff laying out. And at first, it's in your mind, oh no, I can't do that. Stay there about 2 hours. For you know it, you'll be sitting there, you know, this is a really good honey bun. This is delicious. Uh-oh. You still be chewing it by the time you think about what you have done. Why? Because you put yourself in an arena where that was regular. That was normal to all those people. That's the thing about any type of sin. When you get in an arena with people and that's normal, eventually it will become normal to you. That's what desensitizing the situation is about. It's we're gonna show it a little bit here. We're gonna talk about it a little bit here. We're gonna do this, and as soon as it gets normal to you, it's easy for you to then enter into that, because it is not a stop, a pause in that, because it has been normalized to you. That's why images of things have been shown to us over and over and over again on television. We back up a little bit. Some of those things were never on television. But to make sure that we are desensitized on certain things, you'll find that certain things are on TV over and over and over again, so that it won't be a problem in your mind. You will accept it. Go ahead. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 2. See, that same thing works for righteous things, and that same thing works for unrighteous things. When you first hear about some righteous things, you have to consider. Back up to the day you first heard about the Sabbath and eating spiritually clean or biblically clean according to the word. That first day, you ain't jump on that. They say you can't eat no more shrimp and crab legs. What? I'm going to have to read that again. You didn't jump right on that. You had to read that a few times. Somebody had to talk to you about that a few times. And then it started to be comfortable in your ear. You heard it, you read it. You heard it, you read it. Now you're starting to get comfortable in your spirit that this is what it says. This is how we're supposed to eat. I am not supposed to eat pork. I am not supposed to eat pork. You have to get used to that. Once you then got used to it, the next time you got ready to go in the store, no, I ain't picking that up. So there's something to be said about that. To desensitize your mind, it can work for good or evil, depending on what the subject matter is. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 2 and verse 1. And when any will offer a meat offering unto Yahweh, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it, and put frankincense thereon. And he shall bring it to Aaron's sons the priests, and he shall take thereout his handful of the flour thereof, and of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof. And the priest shall burn the memorial of it upon the altar, to be an offering made by fire, of a sweet savor unto Yah. And the remnant of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is a thing most holy of the offerings of Yahweh made by fire. And if you bring an oblation of a meat offering baken in the oven, it shall be unleavened cakes of fine flour mingled with oil, or unleavened wafers anointed with oil. And if your oblation be a meat offering baken in a pan, it shall be of fine flour, unleavened, mingled with oil. You shall part it in pieces and pour oil thereon. It is a meat offering. And if your oblation be a meat offering baken in the frying pan, it shall be made of fine flour with oil. And you shall bring the meat offering that is made of these things unto Yahweh. And when it is presented unto the priest, he shall bring it unto the altar. And the priest shall take from the meat offering a memorial thereof, and shall burn it upon the altar. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yah.
So then when we offer up something unto Yahweh, then we see that that has to be unleavened. So then consider that as we offer up our spiritual works or any of our sacrifices, our vows, the things that we offer up unto Yahweh, we have to then ask ourselves, is it unleavened? And what spirit was it done? And if it was done with a certain spirit that was not right, there's leaven in it. Doesn't matter if the thing is good or not. It may look physically good, but is it leaven in it? What happened in the process in which it was being crafted? Go ahead.
And that which is left of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is a thing most holy of the offerings of Yahweh made by fire. No meat offering which you shall bring unto Yahweh shall be made with leaven. For you shall burn no leaven, nor any honey, in any offering of Yahweh made by fire. As for the oblation of the first fruits, you shall offer them unto Yahweh, but they shall not be burnt on the altar for a sweet savor. And every oblation of your meat offering shall you season with salt. Neither shall you suffer the salt of the covenant of your El to be lacking from your meat offering. With all your offerings, you shall offer salt.
Right. And you can tell in certain parts of town, they don't cook with salt. Y'all know where we come from. We come right out of this book. Yeah. You can tell when you get something, you be like, no, that didn't come from outside of town. You know, you can buy something at a Walmart that's in one area, and you find out, you know, ain't no salt in this right here. You go in another Walmart, same store chain, go on a different side of town, you be like, yeah, somebody look like me made this right here. I dare put that salt in there. Right. You all in this book. Good.
And if you offer a meat offering of your first fruits unto Yah, you shall offer for the meat offering of your first fruits green ears of corn dried by the fire, even corn beaten out of full ears. And you shall put oil upon it, and lay frankincense thereon. It is a meat offering. And the priest shall burn the memorial of it, part of the beaten corn thereof, and part of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof. It is an offering made by fire unto Yahweh.
All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 16. So then we see the things that we are supposed to be dealing with right now. It is a very tedious task to remove this leaven from our houses, and this is a process. So we go about these things of this process so that we are getting that leaven out of our home. So then once you clean a certain area, you don't go back and eat leavened things in that area. So your dining room is going to be the last thing you clean. You get the stuff out of the cabinet, but then you don't turn around and, clean the bedroom and then turn around and take some leaven back to the bedroom. You dropping all kind of crumbs everywhere. Imagine an angel of Yahweh like, look at all this thing in here. Oh, who put this thing on the floor in here? So once you take care of those things, you don't turn around and take that back. This is what one of the things that Yahshua says, the sow that was washed returns to her wallowing in the mire. See, a sow is a pig. You can clean a pig, but as soon as that pig gets an opportunity, it's going to go jump right back in the mud. It has to. It doesn't have any other way to cool itself. It has to be in the cool. The mud is cool. They cool off in the mud. It is not possible for it to clean itself, because that's what it is. That's what it does. So after we are cleansed, do we turn around and jump right back into a situation full of leaven? Because it only takes one drop of leaven to make the whole thing leaven. Go ahead. Matthew 16, start at verse 5.
When his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Yahshua said unto them, Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
So then you see that it is Yahshua that takes this situation of leaven to a spiritual level. This is not my doing. This is not some imagination or some stretch of my imagination. This is Yahshua who does this. He has now taken the situation of unleavened bread in its physical sense and taken that to a spiritual sense of dealing with individuals. Go ahead.
And they reasoned among themselves, saying, Is it because we have taken no bread?
You see they're still at the physical? You see they're still at the physical? They have not gone to the place where Yahshua has. They're still there. Now he's got to help them come over outside of just the physical part of unleavened bread. Go ahead.
Which when Yahshua perceived, he said unto them, O you of little faith, why reason you among yourselves, because you have brought no bread? Do you not yet understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000, and how many baskets you took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets you took up?
So first, in dealing with those of the flesh, you first start with a fleshly thing that they can understand. He has first said, do you not understand what we have done? Why are you questioning? Didn't you see how we made the bread multiply? How could I even be speaking of that? You have limited your own self in dealing with that fleshly thing. Now, he then goes into the spiritual part of it. Go ahead.
How is it that you do not understand that I speak it not to you concerning bread, that you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees.
The doctrine, the stuff that comes out of their mouth. Beware of that leaven. So leaven can go into your mouth, and leaven can come out of your mouth. Is it leaven because it was a harsh word? Or is it leaven because it had harsh the intent that came out? What was it intended for? He says that their doctrine, you have to understand what he says about the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They're going to say a whole bunch of stuff. They're not going to do none of it. They're not doing none of that stuff. They're not going to try to walk in righteousness. They're not going to repent. They're not going to do any of that stuff. There's just something wrong with their doctrine. So they do this, that they may make merchandise of men. They do all of these things. They appear outwardly to be righteous. But inside, they're full of dead men's bones. Did you finish that?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to, one, that note that we got under here says, it is Galatians 5 and verse 9 that says, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And we have to consider, when we deal with that, what little drop of leaven that we may entertain that ends up poisoning an entire lump. An entire lump is a whole batch of something. Let's say you cooking and there is some poison up on the shelf and it fall down into it. Do you just get the spoon and just take out that poison part? If you do, please don't bring no food here. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Please don't bring none here. You need to throw that whole pot out. Okay? Don't bring that here. 2 Timothy chapter 2. See, we have to know when we should start over. Are we trying not to start over? Because, hey, by that time, we don't put a lot of effort into making this thing. I done put out the measurements. I done went and bought all these ingredients. I done put some time into this thing. I done looked at I looked at my recipe. I looked, all right, I'm gonna keep this in here. As I was preparing one thing, I was preparing another thing. I didn't really romance these pots here. You understand? I'm feeling some kind of way with what's happening. But once the poison fall in it, I gotta start over. Second Timothy chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 14.
Of these things put them in remembrance, charging them before the Adonai that they strive not about words to no profit, but to the subverting of the hearers. Study to show yourselves approved unto Elohim, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
If we are rightly dividing the word of truth, then we hear some things that proceed out of somebody's mouth and say, that's not according to Yahweh's word. Or do we just go along with it? You hear it. If you're rightly dividing the word of truth, you can say, no, that's not right. And do we say that about the right thing? Do we intervene when it's a situation of feelings? Or do we intervene when it is a gross misappropriation of the word? Where are we intervening? Go ahead.
Some people, as long as it's not about them, they're not going to intervene.
You got it.
You ain't talking about me, I don't care.
You got it. And sometimes what we need is something that resembles a situation that we have, and all of a sudden we're sympathetic to it. See, we're sympathetic to something for the wrong reason. Somebody come in, something happens, they got a brother that happened, you know what, man, I got a brother who be out there on the street, man, and be using them drugs. I want to be lenient to this brother right here who doing that. What the hell that mean? He's supposed to be dealt with the same way as everybody else. Oh, you lenient because you got a brother that do that? So? Go ahead, bro.
Verse 16. But shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness.
Shun profane and vain babblings, because these babblings will increase unto more ungodliness. See, we're going to have to look up profane and babblings, because it ends up creating a whole lot of other issues. Go ahead.
And their word will eat as does a canker.
Their word will eat as a canker. You get an open sore in your mouth, it is annoying. That same salt that we say is good, oh, it hurt like hell when you got an open sore in your mouth. Go ahead.
Of whom is Hymenaeus and Philetus, who concerning the truth have erred.
Now, their word is profane and vain babbling. Their words eat as a canker because they have a different doctrine. They have a different thing that they're speaking about. Go ahead.
Saying that the resurrection is past already.
That's all they had to do. They have created that short. Resurrection is past already. Now they have caused people to receive things in a different manner because of the things that are coming out of their mouth. They didn't cuss. They didn't do any of that. Are you able to witness when something is profane and vain babblings? They just said the resurrection is past. That's it. Go ahead.
And overthrew the faith of some.
Right. That is the problem. Now the faith of others have been harmed by the words that proceeded out of their mouth. And they thought they were in sport. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure, having this seal.
Are you willing to deal with it? Do people understand that when you overthrow the faith of somebody, do you understand that you got their blood on your hands? Do you understand that? Does that seem cool? To have somebody else's blood on your hands? Go ahead, bro.
And let everyone, the Adonai knows them that are his. And let everyone that names the name of Yahshua depart from lawlessness.
Uh-huh.
But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor.
You're going to have to meditate on that. In a great house, there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. Every vessel in the house can't be honorable. You understand that? Everything in the house ain't made of gold. Some got to be wood. I never seen nobody with a gold pillar in their house to just hold up the rest of the beams. That is a gross misappropriation of gold right there. That is you put that gold in the wrong place. That's all you finna do is hold up the building and you use gold? Go ahead.
If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor.
All right, wait a minute, pause there. So that means there are different kinds of vessels that are in the house. There are honorable vessels in the house and there are dishonorable vessels in the house. But if a dishonorable vessel purges himself, he can change himself to an honorable vessel. But that also means that the opposite is true. That an honorable vessel can transform itself into being dishonorable. Go ahead.
Sanctified and meet for the master's use.
So if something is sanctified, it is set apart, it is separated, it is meat which is fitting for the master's use. Can Yahweh use you? And have you gotten yourself into something or into some things that using you is not convenient for him? Remember now, as much as he loved King David, because King David had fought wars, you can't build me a house. The things that you've done have limited what I can allow you to do for me. I love you. I am so happy that you want to build me a house. I'm going to let your son build me a house. You can't build me a house. But the fact that you wanted to build me a house is enough for me. But because of what you've done, I can't let those hands build my house. Now, this is Yahweh. Yahweh bound by his own rules. Yahweh is the one that led the man to go and build his kingdom, and he had to shed all his blood. But I can't let you build my house. See, my house is on a different level. See? So I gotta have somebody else to build my house who hasn't shed blood. Now you go back to all them situations where you was about to be homicidal and suicidal and all kind of sidles, and he stopped you. Right. Because he knew you was going to have a job in the house. Now it's clear to me, wow, those times where the gun jammed. And I was intent on killing everybody in the room. Oh, it makes perfect sense. Then you learn to sit back. Let Yahweh take care of the business. Go ahead.
You know, even with the son that started out, the one that built the house, he started out as an honorable vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And became what?
Mm-hmm.
Dishonorable vessel. Like you just said, the state of honor can change to dishonor, dishonor can change to honor.
Mm-hmm. What? That's the whole thing about the potter's house. He has the right to change the thing that he's making when he sees the spirit of it. When he sees the spirit of this thing, he said, you know, in the beginning, I was going to make a glorious vase. And then I looked at this thing and I said, you know, this ain't nothing but a cup. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got nothing, but you know what I'm saying? You got cup tendencies. You know what I'm saying? You ain't trying to be no vase. You know, you ain't like what that's how vase. You know what I'm saying? You ain't about that. Let me just go on, reform that, put a handle on it. We put ale in you. There you go. You be a bit more. There you go. Because a vase was too much for you. Well, he looks at how it's going and he reshapes it. So he looks at how we're doing and what we're dealing with. How does he reshape us? And you can't blame the potter for how he reshapes you. Because the spirit of what's inside that clay is determining what kind of vessel it's going to be. Go ahead.
And prepared unto every good work. Verse 22. Flee also youthful lust.
Flee youthful lust. So then we all have youthful lust. Okay? But if we are trying to flee those things, what happens if we got people trying to lead us back into those youthful lusts or magnifying those youthful lusts? See, the one thing about a aged man, when and every generation think this, the kids, our kids believe that they seeing something, that they dealing with something that we ain't never dealt with. Man, I remember saying the same thing to my mom. No, you ain't seen nothing like this, She like, boy, stop. All they do is put a different cover on. It's the same damn thing. And you get of age and you realize, wow, it is the same thing. But it's the youthful lust that we've all had to go through. But it says when I was a child, I spake as a child. I operated as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. There's something wrong with a man who will not put away childish things. There's something seriously wrong. Go ahead.
But follow righteousness, faith, love, peace with them that call on the Adonai out of a pure heart.
Hold on. Flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, love, peace with them that call on the Adonai. Do you operate like that with people in the house who are calling on the Adonai? Do you operate this way? In righteousness, in faith, in love, in peace? Do you operate like that with them? Yahweh holding you accountable if you're not. And Yahweh know all the secret words. He knows all of them. Sometimes the best thing for us is something gets known so we get to stop. See, the worst situation is when somebody gets away with something for decades. What keeps happening? They keep getting more charges on it. More charges. More charges. The best thing for you is that Yahweh stops you. I can honestly tell you there's certain things that I would definitely not have stopped until Yahweh called APD, Atlanta Police Department. And they stopped me right over there on Simpson Road. That took care of some business right there. It wasn't me that was going to stop. He had to stop me. But do you pay attention when he stops you? Or do you just dust yourself off and get right back into it? Go ahead, brother.
The foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strifes.
Right. So when you have a foolish, unfruitful situation that you are dealing with, it is going to make strife. It has no choice but to make strife. Go ahead.
And the servant of the Adonai must not strive.
Uh-huh.
But be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient.
Right. People don't even understand what patience look like. Sometimes by the time we deal with a situation, we've watched it happen 3-4 times. Sometimes people would have given me some information on something. I may have to wait 12, 13 months before I see that situation happen again and know, all right, this is something that we got to deal with. Go ahead.
In meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves.
Uh-huh.
If Elohim peradventure would give them repentance to the acknowledgement of truth.
Listen, in meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves. If Elohim perhaps will give them repentance to the acknowledgement of the truth. There's some people, no matter what you say, they ain't going to listen to you. They have already decided in their heart and in their mind who they're going to take instruction from, and it ain't you. Go ahead.
And that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil.
Do you even know if you're in the snare of the devil? And then you snap at everybody who try to get you out. Every time they try to pull you out of the snare of the devil, you snap at them. Go ahead.
Who were taken captive by him at his will.
Right. That means they are easy prey. They are taken captive. by him at his will. They are easy prey. They make themselves easy prey. Let's go to the next graphic, brother. I want you to read the definition of profane.
From G952, which is Greek, betelos. From the base of G939, and a threshold acceptable as by crossing the doorway, that is, by implication of Jewish notions, heathenish, wicked, profane person.
So then if we're dealing with something profane, then we know that it is heathen-like. We already know what the heathens do. So if we start dealing with the same things that the heathen does, how do we then turn around and call ourselves righteous if we deal with the same things that the heathen deal with? How can I? They used to tell me when I was little, if it looked like a duck, it walked like a duck, it quacked like a duck. Damn it, it's a duck. How you gonna tell Yahweh you different? How you gonna tell him you different and you doing the same thing they doing? Go to the next graphic.
Babblings. From G2757, once again a Greek word, kenophonia, from a presumed compound of G2756 and G5456, empty sounding, that is, fruitless discussion, vain.
Fruitless discussion. What is the purpose of the discussion? What's going to happen at the end of the discussion? What are you going to gain out of it? What is anybody? Is anybody going to gain anything out of it? See, this would be something why it could do young people some justice to sit around adults at times and listen to how they deal with certain things, even when something comes up that ain't right, and you watch them cut it off. Sometimes you listen to the things and you don't know exactly what you're listening to. You'll find, I learned from my elder, he can talk about anything, and somehow a teaching of Israel is going to get into it. You bring up any sadistic thing you want, watch it end back up with Israel. I learned it by watching it. I watch people come in the room and they'll be talking about such and such. Give it a couple minutes. My elders start talking about the same thing they talking about. And before you know it, you're back in a discussion with Israel. You watch other people, it turn out heathenish. And 30 minutes later, it's still heathenish. See, I watched my elder do this. Time and time and time again. Didn't matter who came in the room, didn't matter what they were talking about. Give it a second, he back on the salvation of Israel. I don't care what you bring up. So if you get stuck in that heathen mode, something is wrong. Go ahead, brother.
You know, the thing about it is, we also don't have wherewithal to understand when to cut a conversation when children are in the room. And that's natural children and spiritual children.
You got it.
We can be talking about something and the spiritual child comes in and we know they're not ready. Conversation needs to be changed. It's not that it's a bad or wrong conversation or unrighteous conversation.
They ain't ready for it.
They're just not ready for it.
Let me tell you something. My elder was having a conversation, and it was a brother who was in the word with us, but he was a brother with a really big heart, and a lot of things got to him. My elder was about to say something and bit down and broke his tooth. His tooth broke as he was about to say something, and he bust out laughing. And the guy was like, "Elder, what was you about to say?" And he laughed even more. And he was like, "But Elder, no, you was about to say something." And Elder, every time he asked, Elder kept laughing. He told me later he realized what he was going to say was going to cause me some problems. He said, "I got it later." He said, "Yeah, he can talk to you about a lot of things. Y'all kind of different." He said, "I couldn't handle that conversation. So I never even found out what it was." And that was him finally coming into the realization that whatever elder was saying was going to cause him some problem. And my elder wasn't finna talk about any old thing. But even certain situation of righteousness, everybody can't handle that. So delivering something that was made to be dealt with on one level and then send that to somebody who can't handle that, you might be putting yourself in a serious situation of judgment. Now my elder will finish that situation. It's just me and him. He'll keep talking. I'll be over his house through 3 o'clock in the morning, and we talk all night. I'll fall asleep on the sofa, wake back up. We start back talking. Other people come in the room, the whole conversation change. No, they're not ready for that. That was his love for that individual. Love for that individual means I'm not going to lead them into something that's going to harm them. So we got to understand what love looked like. Go to the next graphic.
1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners.
Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. That means it's sprinkling leaven in there. Those same individuals that we want to kick it with and we want to hang out with, they are ruining the spirit of who you are. Let's go to Titus chapter 1. At some point, we got to ask ourselves, are we attempting to ruin who we are? Titus chapter 1, and let's read verses 10 through 16.
Verse 10. For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision.
Wait a minute. This is Israel he's talking about. See, we love to take something and put it on the heathen. He didn't say especially of the heathen. No. There are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers. That means they have fruitless, empty conversations while deceiving, especially those of Israel. Go ahead.
Whose mouths must be stopped.
Wait a minute. So you're supposed to cut that off then. Go ahead.
Who subvert whole houses.
Wait a minute. They subvert whole houses. You find when certain information gets into a house, now you got the daughter against the father, the son against the father, the son against the mother. You have the whole house subverted because the wrong thing done entered into there. Whole house is being subverted by vain babblings. It's leaven, and it must be rooted out. Go ahead.
Teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake.
Teaching things which they ought not. There's many different directions that teaching things that you ought not to teach can go. Go ahead.
One of themselves, even a prophet of their own, said, the Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, slow bellies.
Right, but you'll find the liars always accusing somebody else of lying. Go ahead.
This witness is true. Wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith.
I'm sorry, what is our job?
Rebuke them sharply.
Sharply. So when you trying to be soft, you think you're doing them a favor. What you're doing is help them harm more people is what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Go ahead.
Not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth. Unto the pure, all things are pure. But unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. But even their mind and conscience is defiled. They profess that they know Elohim, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate.
They profess that they know Elohim. They'll let his mouth, his name come out their mouth, but when you watch their works, they deny him. So their mouth says Yahweh, but their deeds and their actions say Lucifer. Being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate. Wait a minute. You got good works, but they're reprobate. How? The spirit in which they were done has sprinkled leaven all inside your work. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Corinthians chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 1 through 13.
Verse 1. It is reported commonly that there is fornication among you, and such fornication as is not so much as named among the Gentiles, that one should have his brother's wife. And you are puffed up.
You are puffed up. You are not unleavened. You are leavened. You are puffed up. Now, what does the actions of being puffed up does? Go ahead.
And have not rather mourned, that he that has done this deed might be taken away from among you.
Right. So then you being puffed up means you tried to keep the individual who was doing those things around. If you mourn, then now you have become unleavened. But because you are puffed up, you are with leaven because you didn't want that individual gone. Go ahead.
For I verily, as absent in body, but present in spirit, have judged already, as though I were present, concerning him that has so done this deed. In the name of our Adonai Yahshua HaMashiach, when you're gathered together, in my spirit, with the power of our Adonai Yahshua HaMashiach, to deliver such a one unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh.
To deliver such a one unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh. Go ahead.
That the spirit may be saved in the day of the Adonai Yahshua.
Right. If perhaps they may be led to repentance, you might be able to save them. But to do it, you got to deliver them to Satan first. Let him wrestle with them a little bit. And maybe they'll change their ways. But not if you keep agreeing with them. How they gonna change? Go ahead.
Your glorying is not good. Know you not that a little leaven leavens the whole lump?
Right. So then we see that this concept that Yahshua has taught has kept going about the spiritual leaven. So are we just taking sodium bicarbonate out of our houses? You might need to turn a few people over in your house and read and see if sodium bicarbonate is all written on their back. Go ahead.
Purge out therefore the old leaven,
Uh-huh.
that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened. For in the Hamashiach, our Passover is sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with the old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
Right. If we're going to sit there and keep unleavened bread, but we sit there and have malice against one another with a fake smile, you done brought leaven to an unleavened feast. Go ahead.
I wrote unto you in a letter, not to company with fornicators, yet not altogether with fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters, for then must you needs go out of the world.
Yet I wrote unto you in the letter not to company with fornicators. We don't just company, we hang out. We want to participate in their fornication because now it becomes normal. See, the whoremonger think he's doing the same thing that the married people do. He don't see no difference in himself. He think that's normal. It has become normal. Go ahead.
But now I have written unto you not to keep company. If any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such an one, know not to eat.
And people will get upset with you when you begin to do separation for those things. But those separations are not to just, okay, go away from me and never come back. This situation is to provoke unto righteousness, that there may be change. But you can't provoke change if you hanging around justifying all the things that are being done. Something is done and you don't say a thing about it. Then you justify it. Go ahead.
For what have I to do to judge them also that are without? Do not you judge them that are within?
Wait a minute. Do not you judge them that are within? We have a body of people who are over this congregation. It is our job to do those things. Go ahead.
But them that are without, Elohim judges. Therefore, put away from among yourselves that wicked person.
Therefore, put away from among yourselves that wicked person. Why? Because now the judgment now belongs to Yahweh. As long as they're in your midst, guess what? It's your job to judge them. But when you put away from you that wicked person, now it's Yahweh's job. No, I got this. Let's go to Judges chapter 19. But it's very interesting. Do we then fight to keep those things amongst us and not understand what we are keeping amongst us? Do we understand the ramifications of having that still in our midst? Once we know what it is. There's one thing when you don't know what something is. Once you know what it is, your judgment began. Judges chapter 19, and let's read verses 1 through 14.
And it came to pass in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of the Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Yehudah. And his concubine played the whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house, to Bethlehem, Yehudah, and was there 4 whole months. And her husband arose and went after her, to speak friendly unto her, and to bring her again, having his servant with him, and a couple of asses. And she brought him into her father's house. And when the father of the damsel saw him, he rejoiced to meet him.
Right. Now, she wanted to leave the house for whatever reason. And his concubine played the whore against him. She wanted to go and have some fun out in the world. And he arose and went after her to speak friendly unto her. Keep going.
And his father-in-law, the damsel's father, retained him. And he abode with him 3 days. So they did eat and drink and lodge there. And it came to pass on the 4th day, when they arose early in the morning, and he rose up to depart, and the damsel's father said unto his son-in-law, Comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward go your way. And they sat down, and did eat and drink both of them together. For the damsel's father had said unto the man, Be content, I pray you, and tarry all night, and let your heart be merry. And when the man rose up to depart, his father-in-law urged him. Therefore he lodged there again. And he arose early in the morning on the 5th day to depart. And the damsel's father said, Comfort your heart, I pray you. And they tarried until afternoon, and they did eat both of them.
Now, you see how what's happening is the person keeps falling victim to the other person's desire. Tarry longer, stay, eat, be merry. There's a point where we are supposed to stand up. What happens is we stand up all at the wrong times. And standing up at the wrong time ends up causing us more issues than never standing up. So he hasn't stood up all of these days. Go ahead.
When the man rose up to depart, he and his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the damsel's father, said unto him, Behold, now the day draws toward evening, pray you tarry all night. Behold, the day grows to an end. Lodge here, that your heart may be merry, and tomorrow get you early on your way, that you may go home. But the man would not tarry that night.
Now, the man would not tarry this night. Now, he's gotten fed up. Now, he's standing up, but he's standing up at the wrong time. The whole part about getting up early, getting on the journey, he does not end up in a place where he's not supposed to be. So he stands up, and now it's toward the end of the day because he keeps being coerced, and he keeps giving in. And now he stands up, but it's late enough in the day that night gonna catch him. Go ahead.
But he rose up and departed, and came over against Jebus, which is Jerusalem. And there were with him 2 asses saddled, his concubine also was with him. And when they were by Jebus, the day was far spent. And the servant said unto his master, Come, I pray you, and let us turn into this city of the Jebusites, and lodge in it. And his master said unto him, We will not turn aside hither into the city of a stranger, that is not of the children of Israel, who will pass over to Gibeah.
Now, he believes that he's going to be better off going to the land of his people. Go ahead.
And he said unto his servant, Come, and let us draw near to one of these places to lodge all night, in Gibeah, or in Ramah. And they passed on and went their way. And the sun went down upon them when they were by Gibeah, which belongeth to Benjamin. And they turned aside thither to go in and lodge in Gibeah. And when he went in, he sat him down in a street of the city, for there was no man that took them into his house to lodge in. And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at Leaven, which was also of Mount Ephraim, and he sojourned in Gibeah. But the men of the place were Benjamites. And when he had lifted up his eyes, he saw a wayfaring man in the street of the city. And the old man said, Whither goeth you, and whence cometh you? And he said unto him, We are passing through Bethlehem Yehudah, toward the side of Mount Ephraim. From thence am I. And I went to Bethlehem Yehudah, but I am now going to the house of Yahweh. And there is no man that receives me to house.
Jump to verse 22.
Now as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about, and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring forth the man that came in to your house, that we may know him. And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them, and said unto them, No, my brethren, no, I pray you, do not so wickedly. Seeing that this man is come into mine house, do not this folly.
Now, had he rose up in the morning and got on his journey in the morning, he would not have found himself ending up in a place like this. But because he keeps falling to somebody else's will and desire and letting them dictate how he's going to deal with his business, by the time he gets upset, it is now too late. Now he only has a little bit of daylight, and now he's gotten to a place where the people want to know him aggressively. Go ahead.
Behold, here's my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them will I bring out now, and humble you them, and do with them what seems good unto you. But unto this man, do not so vile a thing. But the man would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine, and brought her forth unto them, and they knew her, and abused her all the night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawning of the day, and fell down at the door of the man's house, where her master was till it was light. And her master rose up in the morning, and opened the doors of the house, and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman his concubine was fallen down at the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold. And he said unto her, Up, and let us be going. But none answered. Then the man took her up upon an ass, and the man rose up and got him into his place.
All right, so we see that then this woman was abused all night. Let's go to Judges chapter 20 and start at verse 12. So now he's going to present his case unto Israel, and now Israel see that what was done unto this man was unjust. So now Israel gathers together to make righteous judgment about this situation. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you?
Okay, stop. What wickedness is this done among you? Not that you did it. It was done in your land. If you facilitate the evil, you are a part of the evil. If you then protect the doers of that evil. You have two issues here. It was done in your land. Now it is your responsibility to deliver up the individuals who did this evil. Go ahead.
Now therefore deliver us the men, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel.
They wouldn't hearken unto their brethren. They rather protect the heathen. Now you got a family schism. What is that? That's a burn old houses, right? Okay, now you got a family schism because now you got part that want righteous judgment and others that just want to protect the people who have done these deeds. Go ahead.
But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities unto Gibeah to go out to battle against the children of Israel.
They ready to fight their own family to protect the heathen. Go ahead.
And the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the cities 26,000 men that drew swords, beside the inhabitants of Gibeah, which were numbered 700 chosen men. Among all this people, there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Everyone could sling stones at an hairbreadth and not miss. And the men of Israel, beside Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men that drew sword. All these were men of war.
Right, and it looked like Israel greatly outnumbers, the tribe of Benjamin. But you'll find out that the numbers don't mean nothing. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel arose and went up to the house of Elohim and asked the counsel of Elohim and said, which of us shall go up first to the battle against the children of Benjamin? And Yahweh said, Yehuda shall go up first.
They didn't ask, should I go up? They didn't ask, will you be with me if I go up? They said, which of us should go up first? Well, Judah's the king, then surely Judah should go up first. I didn't tell you y'all should go, but if you want to know who should go first, it should be the kings. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel rose up in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel put themselves in array to fight against them at Gibeah. And the children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah and destroyed down to the ground of the Israelites that day 22,000 men.
All right, so we got 22,000 dead. Go ahead.
And the people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves and set their battle again in array in the place where they put themselves in array the first day. And the children of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh until even, and asked counsel of Yahweh, saying, shall I go up again to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? And Yahweh said, go up against them. And the children of Israel came there against the children of Benjamin the second day. And Benjamin went forth against them out of Gibeah the second day, and destroyed down to the ground out of the children of Israel again 18,000 men.
All right, so we got 22,000 plus 18,000 dead. Go ahead.
All these drew the sword. Then all the children of Israel and all the people went up and came unto the house of Elohim and wept and sat there before Yahweh and fasted that day until even and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh. And the children of Israel inquired of Yahweh, for the ark of the covenant of Elohim was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? And Yahweh said, go up, for tomorrow I'll deliver them into your hand.
Okay, stop. What's the difference?
Are you able to pick out the difference? Are you paying attention? What is the difference in how they approached and the answer they received? The first one, which one of us should go up first? 22,000 dead. Shall I go again? Go ahead. 18,000 dead. This time, you approach directly unto the altar. They went with weeping and fasting. And then they asked the right question. Not only that, listen to the answer that they got. Yes, you shall go up, and I shall deliver them into your hand. Oh, now I'll be with you. See, you didn't come to me the right way. See, you come at Yahweh. What does it say? To the forward, he will present himself forward. Israel, at any point, you can approach unto Yahweh righteous, or you can reproach unto him in a forward manner. And he's going to answer you in a forward manner. He answered them in the forward manner in which they showed up. Which one of us should go first? Judah. Shall I go up again? Go ahead. Then when we get out of our own selves, because see now, we done lost damn near 30-something thousand people. Now we're going to approach. Why we got to lose so much to go unto Elohim the right way? Now we want to go unto Elohim the right way. Now we go with fasting and prayer. Now we go with, shall I do this? Now we ask the question without being puffed up. So we don't want unto Elohim puffed up. See, a hyena might look like he got it going on because he got this long neck problem. So he show up, because he puffed up. But it's all pretend. Because when Mufasa comes, he getting the hell on. He look like he confident. He look real confident. Until Mufasa shows up. They went unto Yahweh the wrong way. And look how many people died. Now, was their cause right? Yahweh now shows that he agrees with their cause. But he did not agree with how they approached. Some people got to learn the hard way. Go ahead, brother.
And Israel set liars in wait round about Gibeon. And the children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day, and put themselves in array against Gibeah as at other times. And the children of Benjamin went out against the people, and were drawn away from the city. And they began to smite of the people, and kill, as at other times, in the highways, from which one goes up to the house of Elohim, and the other to Gibeah in the field, about 30 men of Israel. And the children of Benjamin said, they are smitten down before us, as at the first.
Right. Puffed up. See, now they pride make them feel like we don't want to. Big battles. Well, we gonna win this one too. Good.
But the children of Israel said, let us flee and draw them from the city onto the highways. And all the men of Israel rose up out of their place and put themselves in array at Baal Tamar. And the liars in wait of Israel came forth out of their places, even out of the meadows of Gibeah. And there came against Gibeah 10,000 chosen men out of all Israel. And the battle was sore, but they knew not that evil was near them. And Yahweh smote Benjamin before Israel. And the children of Israel destroyed of the Benjamites that day 25,000 and 100 men.
So we got 22,000 plus 18,000 plus 30 plus 25,000 and 100. Go ahead.
All these drew the sword. So the children of Benjamin saw that they were smitten. For the men of Israel gave place to the Benjamites, because they trusted unto the liars in wait, which they had set beside Gibeah. And the liars in wait hasted, and rushed upon Gibeah. And the liars in wait drew themselves along, and smote all the city with the edge of the sword. Now there was an appointed sign between the men of Israel and the liars in wait, that they should make a great flame with smoke rise up out of the city. And when the men of Israel retired in the battle, Benjamin began to smite and to kill of the men of Israel about 30 persons.
Right, there go your 30. Go ahead.
For they said, surely they are smitten down before us, as in the first battle.
And Yahweh used their arrogance against them. See? This is the problem about that supposed confidence. Now they ain't got confidence because their two situations have worked. Now he uses that confidence now against them. Go ahead.
When the flame began to arise out of the city with a pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind them, and behold, the flame of the city ascended up to heaven. And when the men of Israel turned again, the men of Benjamin were amazed, for they saw that evil was come upon them.
They were amazed. This is the point that they realized that them being puffed up and believing that they were going to win, regardless, this is when it hits them that they're suffering loss. This is the point where they realize that the arrogance have gotten them in a situation, and it's about to go downhill rapidly. Go ahead.
Therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel onto the way of the wilderness. But the battle overtook them, and them which came out of the cities they destroyed in the midst of them. Thus they enclosed the Benjamites round about and chased them, and trod them down with ease over against Gibeah toward the sunrising. And there fell of Benjamin 18,000 men. All these were men of valor.
All right, now you got to consider something. All right, we got to go and mention something here. Remember when it says Saul and his bloody house, for he did these things in Gibeah? Y'all do understand Saul was Benjamite, right? This stuff happened. Now, Benjamin was trying to protect somebody else. The people of Gibeah who did these things, right? Saul then gets to be king of Benjamite and then starts trying to punish these people. Wait a minute. Wasn't y'all that agreed with him? It was y'all that went to war for them. So people look at this story and say, man, all these people died because of that woman. That's not why all them people died. All them people died because Benjamin agreed with the evildoers. That's why all the people died. All they had to do was give them up. Hey, it was evil done. There you go. That's it. Not one Benjamite would have lost his life. This is not about the woman anymore. I keep trying to tell people, pay attention to what happens. What looks like is going on, Yahweh's dealing with something much deeper than that. This is not about the woman. This is about them deciding they were going to protect the evildoers. Now we got 65,000 people plus dead. Go ahead.
Verse 45. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness onto the rock of Ramon. And they gleaned of them in the highways 5,000 men, and pursued hard after them unto Gidon, and slew 2,000 men of them, so that all which fell that day of Benjamin were 20 and 5,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled to the wilderness unto the rock Ramon, and abode in the rock Ramon 4 months. And the men of Israel turned again upon the children of Benjamin, and smote them with the edge of the sword, as well the men of every city, as the beast, and all that came to hand. Also they set on fire all the cities that they came to.
So then you have to consider Benjamin is then very angry, having all of these issues. But these are decisions that they made. They made the decision to protect the evildoers. See, you're only as righteous as the wickedness that you allow. When they allowed these things to take place in their land, and then they protected the people, they might as well have gone ahead and done something to the woman as well. They were just as guilty. And they're almost about to be wiped out as a tribe because they decided to protect evildoers. That's a real heavy price to pay for something that you didn't even do. Ezekiel chapter 9. That's when you realize you done got yourself into something. When 65,000 deaths have taken place for something that you didn't even do. You're trying to protect somebody else. And everybody think that, we ride or die. You're going to find when the stuff start hitting the fan, that you're the only one standing there by yourself. That supposed togetherness, you're going to find out it ain't as strong as it was when everything was going good. When it go bad, every man for himself. You're going to see how fast they leave you and take care of their own hide. Self-preservation is one of the biggest things that any entity has. The reason an animal take off running when they see a lion is what? Self-preservation. You think it go and creep over to another antelope? Hey, Mufasa coming. No. When it look back and see Mufasa, boom, it's gone. The other one better look. Oh hell. And then it start running. It don't go get nobody. That's self-preservation. And because when people, you can tell people who has never been in a situation before, because they have not seen the power of self-preservation. See, whenever you get downtown and they handcuff you into a chair, that's that part where they start questioning you. You're going to watch self-preservation kick in. The people who seem like they was the hardest, the most gangster, watch them turn. Oh, they sound like they was your man 50 grand. That's what everybody sound like until they get handcuffed to the chair. And then they start singing. Tweet, tweet, tweet-lee-lee, tweet-lee-lee. Y'all not trying to call you, but the line was busy, right? See, the situation ain't gone far enough. When you see self-preservation kick in, then you're going to learn something about people. Everybody is together when everything going good. I didn't even consider that was a blessing. That Yahweh let some things go down with me far enough so that I can see self-preservation of me. And what happened? Y'all ever watch First 48? Oh, they be gangster when the show first start, like hour 24. There's a reason why they call it First 48. Keep watching. Watch what happened with the gangster. Straight murderer, yeah. Pow, busting. What? Who won it? Clack, clack, pow. Around hour 36. Take me. Right. Self-preservation kick in. Let the situation go long enough to get in a lineup. Then you're going to see who down with you. Where we at, bro? Ezekiel chapter 9. Yeah. Let's start at verse 1.
Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 1. He cried also in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And, behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lies toward the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand, and one man among them was clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the Elohim of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was, to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
So then it matters what you sigh and cry about. Are you sighing crying about the judgment given to somebody because of a situation? Or are you sighing and crying about the abominations that's done in the city? Which thing are you sighing and crying about? Because you are being marked accordingly. Okay?
And to the others he said in mine hearing, go you after them through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have you pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women.
Right. People ask and they talk about righteous judgment, but when righteous judgment comes, they're going to be surprised. Because people feel like they think they are in the right, so they think righteous judgment is going to be on their side. You can tell who don't read the book. Because if you read the book, you will know exactly where righteous judgment is going to come and stand. Go ahead.
But come not near any man whom is the mark. but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house.
Start at my house. See, execution of judgment don't start at somebody else's house. It started at my house. Start at my house. And slay old, young, take care of this business. Why do you think Yahweh said, behold, I've sent an angel to lead you. Do not provoke him. He's not going to play those games with you. He's got a job to do, and he's going to do that job. Go ahead.
You know, brother, I'd rather be of the men that's being given the instructions than of those who the instructions are being carried out against.
Yeah. You got it?
And he said unto them, defile the house, and fill the courts with the slain. Go you forth. And they went forth, and slew in the city. And it came to pass while they were slaying them, and I was left, that I fell upon my face, and cried, and said, Ah, Adonai Yah, will you destroy all the residue of Israel, and you're pouring out of your fury upon Jerusalem? Then said he unto me, the lawlessness of the house of Israel and Yehudah is exceeding great, and the land is full of blood, and the city full of perverseness. For they say, Yahweh has forsaken the earth, and Yahweh sees not. And as for me also, mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their head.
I will recompense their way upon their head. So the things that they have committed will be committed unto them. Go ahead.
And behold, the man clothed with linen, which had the inkhorn by his side, reported the matter, saying, I have done as you have commanded me.
Which is what the angel is going to do. I have done as you have commanded me. This is why the warning was given. Do not provoke the angel. He is going, if he is an angel that does not work for Lucifer. If Lucifer has not gathered him with his tail, because his tail drew a third part of Yahweh's servants. Okay? So that means somehow in Yahweh's house, a deceiver was able to gather people unto himself. But the angels that do what they're supposed to do, they're going to have the same thing. I've done as you have commanded. And they're not going to be confused on what the order was. They're not going to sit there with Saul like Saul did. Yeah, I did everything you said. And did absolutely nothing that he said. No, that angel knows every bit of his instruction. And he's not allowing any of us, from top to bottom, stop him from performing his job. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 4.
Verse 1. For as much then as the Mashiach has suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of Elohim.
Right, but this is a decision that has to be made. That he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of Elohim. That's a decision that every man has to make on his own. Can't nobody make that decision for you. But what happens if people are trying to make that decision and then other things will keep being presented? Go ahead.
For the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, when we walked in lasciviousness, lust, excess of wine, revelings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries.
When we walked, this was past life, all right? Then we made the decision to change those things. That's because as we start entertaining the things that are written in this word, that stuff starts to become not normal anymore. So as we are doing things that make the old life not normal, if other individuals keep bringing in other things to keep that normal, you never get to a point where this is past, that this is old. You don't try to revive the old man. If Yahweh trying to kill the old man off, you don't go over there and get an old man CPR. So you can bring those old deeds back to life. Go ahead.
Wherein they think it strange that you run not with them to the same excess of rioting, speaking evil of you.
They speak evil of you because you're not with them doing the same riotous things. Check that out. You the evil one because you ain't with them. Go ahead.
Who should give account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead?
Uh-huh.
For this cause was the gospel preached also to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to Elohim in the spirit.
Right. When you go out and speak to people who decide that they're not going to hear a word you say, you're talking to the dead, the walking dead. The walking dead are amongst us. You can't tell them nothing. They puffed up full of pride, and their arrogance won't let them hear anything that you got to say. They got leaven packed in their ears. You can talk all you want. Go ahead.
But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua HaMashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you.
The fiery trial which is to try you. Do you look at the trial and believe that it's somebody else's? Because you're looking at individuals who may be sitting at the forefront. Have you not considered that the trial is yours? See, Yahweh can use one situation and have 20 people on trial. But if you keep looking at the other individual, you don't see the part that's for you. Go ahead.
As though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice, inasmuch as you are partakers of Yahshua's suffering, that when his glory shall be revealed, you may be glad also with exceeding joy.
In other words, those things are to work you toward repentance, which is going to work you toward salvation. It has a purpose. See, we all believe that we can just stop some things anytime we want. It never occurs to us to know Yahweh is going to have to bring some things out and make you stop. We think, see, that's that arrogance. Every person strung out on drugs at some point said the same thing. I can stop this whenever I want. I'm behind the car wash because I want to be behind the car wash. Keep fooling yourself. Go ahead.
If you be reproached for the name of Yahshua, happy are you. For the spirit of glory and of Elohim resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters.
Right. You have to ask yourself, when you are involved in vain babblings about somebody else's life, what the hell does it concern you? What the hell of business is it of yours? Go ahead, bro.
Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify Elohim on this behalf.
And are you discussing something that you can help a brother or a sister become better with? Go ahead, bro.
For the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of Elohim.
Same thing. You go to the end of the book, judgment at the house of Elohim. You go to the beginning of the book, the end of the book, you're going to find the same thing. Judgment must begin at the house of Elohim. Judgment already began, and people talking about, wait, the judgment show up. They're going to see. They're going to see. They don't even understand judgment and already started. You do something secret, and then Yahweh throw your stuff right down Front Street without anybody looking. You didn't see judgment already started? When the judgment show up, he gonna get to you. I mean, right. Read, man.
And if it first began at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of Elohim? And if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear?
Right. If the righteous scarcely be saved. Yeah, we don't need your whole family to bring the bloodline. You don't really need but one. I don't think we really understand that. You don't need your whole family to bring your bloodline through. They say, all right, I need a representative from this family. What? And who am I going to get to carry on this bloodline? You don't need your whole family. That way he can say, I have every tribe represented. I have every family represented, but I don't need your whole family. Go ahead.
Wherefore let them that suffer according to the will of Elohim commit the keeping of their souls to him in well-doing, as unto a faithful Creator.
All right, let's go to Psalm chapter 50.
Psalm 50, chapter 1, verse 1, pardon me. El Shaddai, even Yahweh, hath spoken, and called the earth from the rising of the sun unto the going down thereof. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, Elohim has shined. Our El shall come, and shall not keep silence. A fire shall devour before him, and it shall be very tempestuous round about him. He shall call to the heavens from above, and to the earth, that he may judge his people. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice.
Right, so everybody not his sons. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. A covenant. Here's a covenant Elohim. See, that's what makes the whoremonger such a whoremonger. The things that they're doing outside of covenant. Go ahead.
And the heavens shall declare his righteousness, for Elohim is judge himself. Hear, O my people, and I will speak. O Israel, I will testify against you. I am Elohim, even your El. I will not reprove you for your sacrifices or your burnt offerings that have been continually before me. I will take no bullock out of your house, nor he-goats out of your folds. For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills. I know all the fowls of the mountains, and the wild beasts of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine, and the fullness thereof.
In other words, then we deal with things on levels, and you're not on the same level as Yahweh is on, so you're never going to have that at the same level of information. Do we consider that when a situation is presented that you don't have the same information as everybody else in the room? So when you are making your decision about something, you have to ask yourself, from what pot of information are you feeding from when you came to that conclusion? Because Yahweh point blank said, it's certain things I ain't telling you, I'm going to tell you for. You couldn't even understand if I did. Go ahead.
Will I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Offer unto Elohim thanksgiving and pay your vows unto the Most High. And call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me. But unto the wicked Elohim says, what have you to do to declare my statutes, or that you should take my covenant in your mouth, seeing you hated the instruction and cast my words behind you?
Check that out. But unto the wicked Elohim says, what have you to declare my statutes? People that ain't going to follow no instruction, but always want to mention something about Yahweh. Keep my name and my covenant out your mouth. Go ahead.
When you sought a thief, then you consented with him, and has been partaker with adulterers.
Right. You've been partakers with them adulterers. You didn't stop no. Go ahead.
You giveth your mouth to evil, and your tongue frames deceit.
Uh-huh.
You sitteth and speaketh against your brother. You slandereth your own mother's son.
Right. But still look each other in the face and say shalom. Right after we got through slandering one another. Go ahead.
These things have you done, and I kept silence. You thought it that I was altogether such a one as yourself.
You thought that I was just like you. Now, we know we all have issues. We know that there's always a situation that we can improve upon. And are we going to do stuff for that? Or are we just talking just to be talking? Go ahead.
But I will reprove you and set them in order before your eyes.
I will reprove you. I'm going to deal with you. Go ahead.
Now consider this, you that forget Elohim, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. Whoso offers praise glorifies me, and to him that ordereth his conversation aright will I show the salvation of Elohim.
We need to meditate on that. Whoso offers praise glorifies me, and to him that orders his conversation aright will I show the salvation of Elohim. Your conversation ain't just what you say. Your conversation is also what you do. But let us hit the conclusion of this matter. Go ahead to Psalm 51 and start that at verse 1.
Have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to your loving kindness. According unto the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my lawlessness, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me.
Do we do that? Or do we have too much pride to acknowledge a transgression? I acknowledge my transgression. Wash me thoroughly. How can we be cleaned if we can't acknowledge that anything is happening? So what we do is just find somebody else to throw under the bus. That's why we got to talk about everybody so much, because we got to throw somebody else under the bus. That way it keeps us from acknowledging anything that happened with us. Find somebody else, throw them under the bus. Go ahead.
Against you, you only, have I sinned, and done this evil in your sight, that you might be justified when you speak it, and be clear when you judge it.
Right. See, the people that seek after righteousness understand that righteous judgment includes them too. It is amazing when you hear people talk about judgment, and it's always against somebody else. It is never righteous judgment toward them. There's situations where I have had bad things happen to me in my life, and I had to look, oh, that was righteous judgment. And people are like, why would you call that righteous judgment? Because I know what I did a couple years before. See, I know why he's forcing this situation, because I remember. See, we got selective amnesia. See, when something happened to us, oh, thou, why art thou happening to me, thine? I've not done nothing to nobody nowhere ever. Oh, we don't forget us. So then when they come back, we're confused. Righteous judgment includes all of us. Go ahead.
Behold, I was shapen in lawlessness, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, you desire truth in the inward parts.
Truth in the inward parts. We can't even have truth that proceed out of our lips. How you gonna have truth in the inward parts? We hang out with liars and think we in sport. If you can't even deal with truth coming out of your mouth, how you gonna deal with truth in the inward part? Truth in the inward parts means that I can accept truth even about me.
And in the hidden part you shall make me to know wisdom.
Go ahead.
Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which you have broken may rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my lawlessness. Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right spirit within me.
Right, because at this point he understands that, hey, I have made a breach upon myself. I need to be cleansed. I need to be restored. The arrogant don't think so. No matter what has happened, they still think they're in the right place with Elohim. They don't think they need restoring. They don't think they need cleansing. They think that all judgment is going to come on somebody else. Go ahead.
Verse 8, that's a rough one. It says, make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which you have broken may rejoice.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to reach that point where he's breaking your bones?
Right. Right. But see, stiff-necked and a rebellious attitude cause us to go further down a path than we're supposed to go. See, Yahweh is trying to discipline you at this level, but because can't nobody talk to you, you all the way down here. Now you got broken bones and all of these other situations that you weren't supposed to have. All you had to do is receive it over here. And then you got to walk away and still keep some of your stuff. But because can't nobody tell us nothing, we drag that thing all the way down. See, Yahweh had to prove to me that I wasn't going to change some things. I was in the midst of renegotiating the agreement I made with him. As I was being approached by the authorities, I didn't even see the authorities because I was in my own mind. Just had, oh my goodness, oh, I'm going to go, I'm going to do evil some more. But he had to prove to me that I wasn't going to stop on my own. So when he sent you a situation to make you stop, do you turn around and yell at Yahweh because he turned the light on your situation? See, you go with people sitting in the dark and they're comfortable in the dark, and you go and flip that light on, you might hear some descriptive words. Because they got comfortable in the darkness. And here you go, turning on the lights, disturbing them and the roaches. Everything done got comfortable in that darkness. Do you argue with Yahweh when he turned the light on? Or do you get mad at the person that he used to turn the light on? Go ahead.
Verse 11, cast me not away from your presence, and take not your Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with your free spirit. Then will I teach transgressors your ways, and sinners shall be converted unto you.
How do you convert someone if you are agreeing and performing the same deeds with them? How are you converting them? Go ahead.
Deliver me from blood guiltiness. O Elohim, you Elohim of my salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of your righteousness. O Adonai, open you my lips, and my mouth shall show forth your praise. For you desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. You delighteth not in burnt offering. The sacrifice of Elohim are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. O Elohim, you will not despise.
Are we allowing our heart and spirit to be moved by Elohim? Are we being moved by our feelings into a situation where Elohim is not able to reach us? Sometimes you're supposed to feel a certain way about something because Yahweh is trying to open you up to deal with you in a situation. He's just using that situation to deal with something else inside of you. He's dealing with them with the situation for a whole nother reason. That's not why it was presented to you. Your situation and that situation are two totally different situations. He's just letting you be a part of it because it's something he's trying to draw out of you. But if you then attach yourself to the heathen, you think their judgment is yours. That ain't what he's dealing with you for. Go ahead, brother.
Do good in your good pleasure unto Zion. Build you the walls of Jerusalem. Then shall you be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then shall they offer bullocks upon your altar.
All right, that's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.